Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld, where in the previous episode we set up Iron Outpost 3, the new iron mining outpost, to replace Iron Outpost 1. We've got the mining operational, we've got the loading set up. Now all we need to do is get the trains going to their respective destinations and get the defences in place. So we set up the first train. This one's going to go to the circuit outpost and the other one will go to the main base, of course. And we follow it along to make sure everything's working fine. And it all is. The circuit outpost has been quite quiet recently. There's not been that much need for circuits or anything much. Things are currently quite calm, so there's not much need to keep throughput going, particularly quick at the moment. And it's hard to say whether like speeding up the schedule of the train would help or not. But it's interesting that the old train is actually on a really short schedule. It spends very little time in the outpost before it returns to Iron Outpost 2. And I decided to not go quite that far with this one. I think I have it at like 20 seconds at each location, and I do the same for the other train as well. That's usually good. It seems to be enough time for the trains to get pretty much loaded, but not waste too much time with sitting around having been fully loaded. So we can park this one up in the Iron 1 station, which will be the dedicated station now for Iron Outpost 3, whereas in the Circuit Outpost we have one station that takes both of the iron trains. So that shouldn't be a problem. Everything's quiet over there as well, but it's to make sure that we never have any trouble if one of the outposts gets knocked out, which is entirely possible. Iron Outpost 3 is a very long way away from everything, and if I'm out on the lake, it'll be quite the trek to return to it. If a large enough biter force attacked, like triggered by an update or something like that, it could cause some serious trouble. Like with 0.13, there might be some changes to biter AI that could cause some sort of catastrophic battle to take place or something. And we have had that sort of thing before. I remember when I think when 0.12 came out, there were some random biter attacks that we hadn't been getting before in certain places and stuff like that from them just sort of being reset. But anyway, we are working on the defences now. The trains are working properly and everything is fine with that. We start putting in our turret line. I decided to go quite crazy with it, really. I go for a similar tactic to what we have in Iron Outpost 2. And this is sort of a frontline base. It shouldn't be attacked that much, but at the moment there are biters inside radar range or inside the map that you can see. And we'll have to make sure to deal with those soon. The pollution is not that far away from them, really. And it's been a while now since we've gone around the sort of the edges of our territory and just pushed back the biters a little bit. So we'll get on with that shortly. And that should ensure that the base remains unattacked. But just in case it is, we are cramming it full of turrets as much as we are with Iron Outpost 2, and it's probably a good idea because I imagine we're not going to visit Iron Outpost 3 very often. There's probably going to be dozens of episodes between one visit and the next. The only reason we would want to go over there is to add in more miners, and that's probably not going to happen particularly urgently. Because it's not on the way to anything else. At least Iron Outpost 2 is sort of, it's one of the furthest points in the sort of main base, and it's also on the way to the Lake Railway that we need to get some work done on at some point in the future. We still haven't set up any signals or any radars on the entire northern half of the line, but that's definitely something we can look at doing pretty shortly. So we arrive back in Iron Outpost 3. We've resupplied in the main base because there's huge amounts of ammo that we need to be loading into all these guns, as well as huge amounts of walls we need. And at the moment my inventory is quite cramped with all sorts of random stuff that I really need to sort of have a proper clearing out of, but with a couple of journeys there and back, we'll be able to get all the equipment we need to get it fully loaded. But anyway, with the walls that I'm setting up for it, I've actually made a bit of a mistake already. When I was originally setting up the station for Iron Outpost 3, I made a mental note to leave a small strait in between the main station section and the loops on either end. The reason being that I could then run some gates through them and have a properly sealed off outpost without having to extend the walls really far onto like the main line. And I'm not sure how, but I managed to sort of forget that, and even though I was thinking about it just before I put the rails down, I didn't leave the gap there in the end, which is annoying because it means that if I do want to have gates, I'll have to do it a little bit more awkwardly, but I worked something out. But anyway, we're working on the turrets, and I've decided to sort of I'm going for a 50-50 mix of standard turrets and laser turrets, as I've done in Iron Outpost 2, and I'm sort of spacing them so that there's a gap of 2 squares between each one, which is probably a bit overkill, but it should be fine. It's better to be overkill than underkill. But anyway, we're going to put in our gates, and I'm doing it a little bit weirdly this time. I'm having it through the middle of the station area, and I'm setting it up so that any trains actually parked in Iron Outpost 3 won't hold the gate open unless they're longer than the standard 2 cargo wagons. And it also means that if any train shorter than, well, any train that's like just one engine can park in the Iron Outpost 3.1 station that I have without leaving the gates open as well, which is good because the only time that the 3.1 station at the top will be in use is when I'm visiting it in some random train. It's quite possible that I'll just be visiting it in a one-engine train because I'm just using it to get over there. So that should be alright, and it should mean that the place is completely sealed, which is a little bit better than I have with Iron Outpost 2 and things like that. I forget if I managed to sort that out, but there was definitely a problem earlier on when there wasn't a gap because I couldn't put the gates where I wanted them to. And I had a good reason that time around. It was because gates didn't exist yet, so I wouldn't have known to have the gap. But with this one I had no excuse, I just forgot and did it wrong. And I could change it, but I've already got the trains running and things like that, so it'll be fine. And as it turns out, this works okay and looks a little bit interesting. But anyway, we've got most of the turrets set up now. We just need to get the laser turrets and then get some substations to get everything else powered. And we managed to grab a train as we make our way back as well, which is always fun when you just when you've got Power Army, you're able to just hop on a train without having to worry about being hit by it and dying horribly, especially when you're running away from it as well, because I think it means that the impact is slightly lessened, maybe. I'm not completely sure how it works, but I seem to remember at some point I ran head-on into a train and died when being hit by a train normally didn't kill me, so maybe the relative speed is important in some way. But anyway, we're in the main base doing the resupplying, gathering the substations and the laser turrets we'll need, as well as some extra miners in case we want to increase the mining rate, and we've also got a little bit more ammo to finish loading the remaining turrets. We'll check up on the stone mining, which is making good progress. We're down to 5 miners again, or whatever I don't know if we were at 5 before, but we're continuing to cut down. There's very little left now, and it should not be long at all before these remaining miners are done. The main issue is that the stone is building up because there's not that much use of it, but we can fix that. I grab a bunch of concrete from our little concrete assembler by the rail line, and then I take it over to the new Iron Outpost to make use of it. We might as well do a bit of concreting here, make things look a bit nicer, and it's also useful as well, allowing you to run around quicker. It's actually quite convenient. But we'll start putting in our laser turrets, just spacing them in between all of the other ones, and then we'll run around with some substations and get those all covered. And I don't think I'm going to bother with like a logistics system in this one. That was just for Iron Outpost 2, which was in sort of particular need of upgrading because it's such an important outpost in the grand scheme of things, with it being on the end of the rail line. There's always the chance that I could like run into Iron Outpost 2 being chased by millions of biters that I could do with dealing with, and in which case it's good to have a logistics system in place to help replace any turrets that might be destroyed by the extremely angry behemoths and who knows what else that are running at you. Because 0.13 it's on its way now. We're getting closer and closer. I forget exactly when it was due for. It was something like June. With there being no guarantee it would actually come out in June, the Factorio developers will often end up taking longer than they predict. Though they do always do a good job, and they always are excellent at bug fixing and all sorts of things like that. And like Factorio is ridiculously stable at this point, particularly after the Steam release. A lot more people were playing, and so a lot more people were finding bugs, and there were even bugs fixed that everyone sort of knew existed but forgot were bugs. There's nothing I can think of off the top of my head, but I definitely remember reading a bug report and going, "Oh yeah, that is a bug." I didn't even comprehend that was a bug anymore. It's just it was just a part of the game for me because I've been playing for so long, and of course it's all tiny things at this point, ridiculously specific things where you need a particular hardware for it to happen and stuff like that. And crazy stuff like people deliberately trying to cause things in the editor and things like that. But anyway, we've got a bit of concreting done, but I decided to go back and grab even more just to sort of have a bit of completeness. I sort of ran out in the middle of finishing a row, so I want to make sure that I at least have all the edges nice and evened out. But anyway, we sort of park our train in a really stupid place. I put it in the exact wrong spot to allow everything to continue functioning and basically hold up the entire network for a second. And an interesting thing happens as we make our way back as well. We end up taking an odd detour down in the direction of the coal outpost as we're driving along to sort of avoid a junction that was a little bit busy. And I was wondering if it was sort of a good idea or not, because it might actually have been, considering how quickly the train can travel and how much a junction can get congested from time to time, whether it was actually like speedier to take the route. Because there have been problems in the past with trains taking weird detours that don't really make sense, but they have been fixed, and so the trains do think a lot more about whether something is a good idea or not, and the train may have taken the detour because it actually was a quicker route, which would have been interesting. But anyway, we make our way back to the main base again. Everything's still going the same with this stone mining. There's still 5 miners, but I decided to do a bit of a rearrange once again. There's very little stone left, but I reckon we can speed it up just a little bit more by doing a little bit of a switching around with the miner positions once again, and we get it so that we can have 7 miners in place this time, just to speed it up a little bit more. And again, there's some on the edges that'll run out really quickly, but it still speeds up the mining rate overall, which is good, and gets this cleared a bit quicker, because we're getting now to the point of setting up the new stone deposit, and we also want to make use of this space. I've already got plans for some rail structures that will be pretty much exactly where that stone currently is, and I'm actually, as I'm running around there, I'm actually mapping out exactly where the lines will be, so I can see if like the stone is out of the way enough that I can start building it anyway. But we'll leave it for now. We'll sort out the new stone deposit, and pretty soon the old one will be completely sorted out. And I have a quick look at the map. I've had my sights set on a particular deposit for a very long time now. It's a huge one on the way to Iron Outpost 2 that I couldn't really ignore, and if I put an outpost on there, we'll never need to build a stone outpost again unless I try and concrete the entirety of Railworld or something like that, which is always something I could try, but we'll get that one sorted and we'll have stone dealt with for a very, very long time. Though I'm still sort of contributing to burning through the stone supply with a little bit of concreting. And I realise I probably should have concreted the rail area a bit sooner, because I walk around here quite a lot, hopping on one train or like getting from the spare train area back into the main base. It makes a lot of sense to have these concreted, and for whatever reason I just sort of ignored it. I've concreted all the main factory area, but I sort of forgot about this as being a sort of important part of things. So we just burned through most of the concrete supply we have available, so we should definitely be burning through the stone supply in the in Iron Outpost 1 now, and getting done with it very, very quickly. But I grab a bunch of rails ready to go over to our new stone deposit and set up a very similar system to what we have on Iron Outpost 3, get that all sorted. Though we probably won't have to worry about defences so much. I mean, well, it is in a similar sort of location relative to the sort of biters, but it's less important, I think, is the thing. But anyway, while I'm in the main base, I spot a bit of weirdness with the steel line. There's a random half of an underground belt that has blocked the steel from moving, and I can only guess that it ended up being like that when I was setting up the new destroyer drone production, upgrading it to be like 5 times the capacity it was before. Because that is sort of the area, and that's the only development I've really done in that place for a while. It didn't affect that much. It was only like laser turrets and maybe one other thing that were starved of steel. So the only reason, like, I only noticed it now because of that, because the laser turret supply was empty. And weirdly, I now have an odd number of blue underground belts, so who knows where the other half of it is. It might have been destroyed, or who knows. I can't think off the top of my head of any cases where biters have destroyed anywhere with blue belts, but maybe it's just ended up in the logistics system, or in some random chest, or like that's just been placed down somewhere else and is causing more backups in some belt somewhere. But over at the stone deposit, we are down to 4 miners now. Already half the ones that we put in when we changed it have run out, and at this point it's minutes away from finishing. So we'll hop in our spare train and make our way up to the location of our new stone deposit. And here it is on the line to Iron Outpost 2, a massive thing right next to a radar that was built a very long time ago now. But we'll start just decimating the local foliage and destroy a bunch of trees to make way for our station. And this time round, I'm going to make sure to leave spaces for the gates and things like that so we can set things up a little bit nicer. But I'm trying to work out sort of a nice, efficient way of putting in the rail line. Because there's this extra little side deposit here that we can make use of. So I'm wondering if I can sort of sneakily dodge around the side of that and sort of go in between the two deposits. But nothing's quite working out. It's all a case of, like, if things were just one square further in any direction, I'd have enough room to put it in and not have to worry about miners not being able to access it and things like that. But in the end, I gave up on it and just put it below them, because that's fine, really. And then we start putting in our the rest of our rail line, and we can sort out a new loop to connect this to the Iron Outpost 2 line, and also sort of break up this line a bit. This is a really long stretch of just straight line rails, and it might be useful to have a loop in here to allow trains to turn around a little bit sooner. But we'll get that all in place. And try not to disrupt the operation of the trains too much. It's not too important, what with us having 2 Iron Outposts now, but it's always adds a little bit more to the challenge if you try and keep the rail line live while you're working on it. Though I do sort of ruin it because I don't put in the sections on the top of the loop for a while, which means that for a while everything is just completely disconnected. And I was wondering why a train wasn't turning up. A train did come from the north, but there wasn't one coming from the south for a while. I was wondering where the second train was, but of course, because I disconnected all the rails so much, the train probably took the other route and went entirely the other way around the... I guess I should call it the small loop, like the loop that just spans the main base rather than the lake itself. I guess it's the lesser loop and the greater loop or something like that. Who knows? I should come up with a name. Smaller loop will do for now, I guess. But we expand our spare train. It gets promoted to cargo train status, actually, and perhaps it would prefer to be someone's personal train rather than just shuttling stone around the place. But I've only just thought of that, so it's too late for it now. By now, it's already connected up into the system and everything. But we continue setting things up, and again, I'm gonna put like a secondary station. It's just sort of becoming a habit at this point. There's sort of a bit of a justification for having Iron Outpost 3.1 as the station, so that we can visit without disrupting things. But the stone outpost really doesn't need that. There's not much reason to ever come here. But I put it in anyway because I thought, why not? So we get that all set up. It doesn't take too much effort to get that in place. And we put our stations in. And we call this one Stone Outpost 2 because there has already been a Stone Outpost 1, though. This is the first sort of outpost built specifically for stone, because previously the Stone Outpost 1 was just a repurposed Copper Outpost 3 or 4. I've lost count now, mostly because I removed the old name and replaced it with Stone Outpost 1, and subsequently forgot what it used to be called. But I think Stone Outpost 4 Copper Outpost 4 might still have its name and everything, but there's not much over there to make use of now. I just leave the station in place to remind me how many copper outposts I've had, really, so that if I make a new one I can number it. Though with Mega Copper 1 being a thing, we probably will never make another copper outpost again. It's going to take a very, very long time to burn through that sort of supply. But anyway, with the defences, I set it up very similarly to Iron Outpost 3, but I decided not to bother with the laser turret, so it's got sort of 50% of the capacity or something like that. And we make sure to space it all nicely. It works out really nicely till right at the end when I have to move things along just by 1 square to make it work. And otherwise, thanks to sort of the rail positioning, we were able to make it really neat and lined up nicely, not that it sort of matters in any way particularly. But we'll get it all in place. This time we have all the turrets we need, but we will need to resupply once again on ammo to get these all loaded. I imagine this place probably won't be attacked very much. I mean, there are biter bases quite close, but I imagine we'll probably start next episode by pushing them back, considering how close they're getting at this point. And this one should be fine, really. It's directly in between Iron Outpost 2 and Iron Outpost 3, and they're more likely to get attacked then because they're sort of on the corners of the place or something like that. But we are running out of time for today. We'll go back and resupply on the various equipment we'll need to finish our work on the stone outpost, but we are pretty much coming to the end for today. And speaking of stone, we finally finished with the stone mining on Iron Outpost 1. It is finally complete, and we can start clearing things away. It will take a while for the chest to empty of all the stone, But with all the concrete I've been using recently, that shouldn't take too long at all. So we'll leave that for the moment, and then once that's done, we will repurpose one of the trains to service, well, I guess both of them to service Iron Outpost, not Iron Outpost, Stone Outpost 2, and I guess we have a third now. I guess maybe the private train won't end up being a cargo train after all. I might end up using it for myself still. But anyway, we're running around grabbing a bunch of random belts and walls and things that we might need, and we go over to our sort of stone production area, where I spot that the wall assembler is a level 1 assembler. I don't know how I've missed this. I don't know how I missed upgrading that, but I switch it to a level 3, get some modules in it, and that is all sorted, and we'll make our way back to the middle and say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.